Welcome to my channel HowTube. My name is Lars, and in this video I want to share 9 tips and tricks with you so that you can find the cheapest flight for your next holiday. And if you want to know what's my major tip to find a cheap flight, I will tell you this at the end of the video. Okay, but let's start at the beginning. If you're searching for a flight for your next destination, and of course there are several search engines you can use. And many of these search engines are quite good actually, but what you need to know is that the prices are different depending which search engine you are using. So tip number 1 is of course that you use several flight search engines, that you check the prices you get and that you compare the prices with each other. I did some research and I found out that Momondo is one of the most recommended search engine, because if you search for flight deals with Momondo, they will also show you the high-end airlines but also the budget airlines, and they include English websites and also non-English websites, which is quite important, as if you're looking for cheap flights, let's say around Asia, and there is a low budget airline which doesn't have an English website, most of the search engines, they won't show these cheaper flight options. So Momondo would be a website you would check out first. Then there's also Google Flights. I like it quite a lot, as you can open the map and you can see the cheapest deals around an area, and you can search for different connections between different cities and stuff like this. Then there's ITA Matrix, Skyscanner, which is also a really good option if you're looking for cheap flights, Kayak, and JetRadar. So this is a little overview of different search engines you could use. But there's one more thing you need to do if you start to compare prices. So after you did some research by using those flight search engines, I would always check out the airlines, and then I would go on their website and check out the prices one more time, because actually the last time we booked a really cheap flight to Mexico for about 500 something euros, we booked it on the website of the airline KLM. So this was the cheapest deal at that time, and actually what happens is that some airlines actually keep some of their deals, of their cheapest deals, only for website visitors. So they won't promote those deals on any search engine, but only if you look directly, like on the website of the airline. And if you book the flight on the website of the airline, this is also sometimes nicer, as if something happens, for example, the flights get cancelled, the airline will take care of you. If you book on websites like, let's say, Opodo, it can always happen that if your flight gets cancelled, for example, you need to contact the airline, and the airline will say, oh no, we don't take care of this because you booked with Opodo, so you have to contact Opodo, and then you have like this ping pong game and nobody feels responsible for your booking. We had this problem a couple of times. Tip number 2 is timing. So the timing when you actually book your flight. There is this myth that the cheapest flight deals are published on Monday night, so the best time would be Tuesday morning to book your flight. Again, this is a myth. Some people are saying this is true, some other people are saying this is not true. At the end, I cannot tell you if this is true or not, but what I can tell you is that I would always do a lot of research at the beginning, try to compare the prices on different days. There's also a study which actually says that you need to book your flight around 3 to 5 months before you want to go on your trip, because 3 to 5 months in advance you will get the cheapest deals. For us, I think it's quite true, because most of the flights we booked about 5 to 6 months before we went on our trip. Tip number 3, incognito mode. Again, some people say this is true, some people say it's not true, but what you hear is that, for example, if you delete cookies or if you use an incognito tab on your computer, you will get different prices. It can happen that you get different and cheaper prices than if you use your regular browser. So what they say is that if you're searching for a flight and if the website is using cookies and recognize who you are, it could happen that on one day it's cheap, and if you wait for a couple of days, suddenly it's getting more and more expensive, as the website owner already knows that you want to book that flight. Like I said before, there are actually a lot of people who say that this is not true, but what I can also tell you is that it happened to us that once we were using an incognito tab, some flights were actually cheaper. So it's at least worth it to try it. And I mean, we all know it, right? We are searching for flights and the algorithm of the website is changing the prices all the time. Next tip, be flexible when you go on your trip. And we can talk about days, but we can also talk about months. Seriously, use all these search engines I told you before and check out month by month when you can find cheap deals. If you're flexible like that, you will find some cheap flights for sure. If you read some blogs, they will tell you there are 3 days which are good for departure, and this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday. The most expensive flights are going on Friday and Sunday. So what many people suggest is that if you book a domestic flight, you should depart on Saturday and return on Monday. If you do this combination, you will find some cheap flights. If you go on an international flight, you should leave on Tuesday and you should return on Wednesday. This is the cheapest combination for international flights. And then you should also be flexible at what time you're leaving, because the flights going in the middle of the night, also called red-eye flights, and the flights going early in the morning are of course cheaper than flights going during the day. Next tip, be flexible which airports you're departing from and the airport you're going to arrive, as sometimes it's actually cheaper to take a train ticket to the next town and leave from that town. So try Google Flights to check out a good combination of airports to find cheap flight deals. Another tip is to actually split your flight. For example, when we flew to Australia, we booked one ticket with one airline from Hamburg, Germany to Bangkok. So this was Norwegian airline. Then we booked another flight from Bangkok to Singapore. This was Tiger Air. And then we booked another flight from Singapore to Darwin, Australia, flying with Jetstar. So by booking flights with different airlines separately, having a couple of stops in between, we found a really cheap deal for us, as we only paid around 350 euros from Europe to Australia. If you travel like this, it can be easier and cheaper than by flying directly from one place to the other. Or if we talk about Southeast Asia, if you want to go to Cambodia or Laos or Vietnam, sometimes a direct flight can be quite expensive. But what you can do, you can fly to Bangkok and take a bus to Cambodia or a boat to Laos. So always think about these options. Crossing a border by land is not that hard anymore, especially in Southeast Asia. Another tip, and here you have to test it on your own again, because it really depends on the airline and the website and the country you're traveling to, but some people say that if you change the currency, you can have different prices. So it can be cheaper to book a flight in a different currency than the currency you use at home. So this is a tip if you really have a lot of time and if you're looking for the cheapest deal, something you can keep in mind, and when you book your next flight, just try it out. Another tip is, if you're searching for your next flight, you should only search for one person, because if you try to find 2 tickets for 2 people, they will try to find 2 seats next to each other in one plane, and they will always give you the higher rate. So let's say one ticket would be cheaper than the other, but as you're looking for 2 tickets or 2 seats, they will give you the higher price. The payment method is always a pain in the ass, right? Because let's say you're searching for a flight using a search engine, and at the end, just when you're about to pay, they will tell you, oh, but you need to pay extra for the luggage, you need to pay extra for insurance. Okay, the insurance. You need to pay extra if you want to choose your seat. Okay man, I don't give a shit, give me whatever seat you got. And now if you want to pay, you need to pay extra because you're using a credit card. And then suddenly you need to pay 20 bucks more. Sometimes you see a really low price by using a search engine or a certain airline, and at the end, when you have all these extra fees, this flight is actually more expensive than other flights. So when you have different flights you want to compare, I would always try to do the whole booking and compare the prices you got at the end. Let's talk about the 24 hours cancellation tips. Some people say, and I think this also depends on the airline and where you book, but when you read through different blog posts, many people will tell you that they book a flight and check the price after 24 hours, and if the price for the flight drops in that time, you have the possibility to cancel your flight and to rebook it. We have no experience about that and we have never done it, but this is just another tip I read about. One of the best ways to find a really cheap deal is to actually look for cheap deals. But in that case, most of the times you need to be really flexible where you want to go. For example, you can use websites like Holiday Pirate, Airfare Watchdog, or The Flight Deal. Or for example, if you check out the newsletter or social media of certain airlines, you can find some really hot deals here. Or for example, if you use the website kiwi.com, you can write down where you're living and it will show you great destinations you can go to from your hometown. In this case, you have like a list of great cities cities you can travel to and great prices. But you need to be more flexible where you want to go. And to finish this video with my major tip, and this tip is really easy. If you find a very cheap flight, book it straight away. Book it when you see it, because it happened so many times to us already that we found a good deal and we waited a couple of days and then the price went up again and up and we couldn't stop it. So if you find a good deal, book it, seriously. You can do a lot of research and follow all the tips I just told you about. At one point you need to book and you're never sure if this is the cheapest deal you find. So let's say you want to pay about 300 euros for your flight and you see that flight for 300 euros or 315 euros, just book it. Don't wait that you will find a flight for 290 euros. You need to have like a certain price range you are willing to pay, and then if you see the deal, grab it. So this is my last tip, and I hope you learned a little bit today. I hope this video will help you to find some cheap flight deals for your next trip. If you have another tip how to find cheap flights, please post a comment for everyone so they can read it. And if you don't have another tip but you just want to post a comment, please write down what's your next destination, because right now we are really thinking where we should travel next. We are not sure. If you like this video, please give me a thumb up, and if you want to see more travel videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'm happy about every single subscriber. This is HowTube. My name is Lars. Thank you for watching.